Hey guys, Justin here, or you can call me Moose. Welcome back to another video. This is another episode of my Beginner's Guide to Airsoft, where I take you on a journey of beginner to pro in no time. So today's video is going to be about your first Airsoft kit. Now, before I go into the video any further, I would like to make note that I do have a Discord server. This is not your traditional YouTube plug. I'm just saying it now because I've had people tell me before that I need to start advertising it because nobody knows about it. I have a Discord server. It's in my description of every single one of my videos. If you join the Discord server, not only can you talk to me in real time because YouTube hates me and doesn't give me notifications for comments half the time, but you can also get real-time answers from not just me, but from anybody else like The Wolf or Red or anybody else that's on there. You can also be more up-to-date on videos I'm doing or projects I'm working on behind the scenes. For example, I'm going to be looking at doing giveaways, as well as I'm currently making a ghillie suit. All this different stuff that's like behind the scenes, not ready for YouTube just yet, you can get insight on before it even happens. So it's a great place to also just come hang out, ask questions, just hang out. It's not just Airsoft either, we got some other hobbies on there too. But with that said, let's go ahead and get right into the video. Alright guys, so today's episode of Beginner's Guide to Airsoft, we have your first Airsoft kit. So what this video is for, it's targeting those of you that may have just started Airsoft and ready to get your first Airsoft kit. You're looking at all these guys wearing these full kits out there. They're looking like Ghost out there in Call of Duty, and they're looking really cool, and you're like, wow, okay, I'm ready to get my Airsoft kit. I've saved a bunch of birthday money. I've mowed a ton of lawns this summer. Where do I start? So today we're going to be talking to you guys about where to start, what to get, stuff for you guys to do to get your first Airsoft kit. But before I talk about that, the first thing I would like to make mention of is, do you really need to upgrade your kit? And the short answer to that is no, you don't. But the longer answer to that is possibly, depending on what you're doing, what you want to do, and how long you plan on playing. If you just plan on coming out once every 2-3 months, I would say absolutely not. Don't worry about upgrading your kit. If you want, just find some camo somewhere in a garage sale or Goodwill or surplus store or something. Just get something cheap and just go out and have fun, get the rentals, and have fun with it. But if you plan on playing like once a month, twice a month, 4 times a month, if you're planning on playing consistently and starting to play a lot more, that is about the time you want to start looking at upgrading your stuff. But my first suggestion is to don't worry about upgrading. Go to the airsoft field, have fun. As you mingle with the regulars there, you get to see what guns they have. You get to see what style of play there is. There's several different styles of play, whether you're going for milsim, speed soft, or just casual. There's a ton of different routes you can go. In military or in milsim, you'll also have like snipers, riflemen, support gunners, all these different things. That is a lot of words that you guys may not know about just yet. Instead of me making a whole bunch of videos and for you guys to understand it, you will learn a lot more from actually going to the field and playing. But for those of you who are still here watching my video, thank you. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys what to do to get your first kit. And so once you are ready to get your kit, I would say the best place to start is figuring out what style suits you if you already know. Because if you don't know what style you're getting and you end up spending $200-300 on a kit, end up changing your style in a month, guess what? You just spent $200-300 and now you're stuck with a style you don't like. So if you are playing, I would say explore what there is. If you haven't tried Speed Soft, try Speed Soft indoor stuff. If you haven't tried milsim, maybe try milsim or something at your local field. Depending on what you're doing, just try out different stuff first, so you can kind of know what you want to do.
Yeah. It's way better to over-research and know that you're going to like what you're getting than it is to under-research and then end up with a product that you don't like and you're not happy with, and then either have to be forced to buy something else or play that it's the style that you don't like.
Exactly, and like I said, if you spend $200-300 on a kit for a style you don't play anymore, well, now you're stuck $300 in the hole for a style you don't like, and then you have to try to sell it to somebody else, which is a hassle just to be able to get some of that money back. And so best thing you can do is research, ask the players around you, see what they're doing, and that's really the best place to start. But for those of you still watching, the next thing that I would say is what is the most important thing to get. And then so what I'm going to do is in order of importance, I'm going to give you guys items to look at purchasing. Now, I'm not going to give you specifics of which gun is better, which this is better, which that is better, because that is ultimately up to you guys, and you need to know a little bit more about what you're wanting to do for me to answer that question. And so it's not going to be the same answer for everybody. If you want to be a support gunner, run an LMG. Well, there's a ton of different routes you can go with that. If you want to be a sniper or a marksman, there's a ton of different routes for that. If you just want to be a rifleman, kick indoors, or if you want to play speed soft, tournament style, every single one of those factors, plus some more, all contribute to making that decision of what specific gun or what specific XYZ that you're going to get. But I can give you kind of like a blanket list for you guys to follow. And so the first item on this list, the most important, I would say, is going to be your EyePro. Because if you are still using rentals and you're wanting to start playing more professionally or start playing more often, EyePro is the number one thing to get, because what you usually get for rentals at fields is a paintball mask. Yes, this offers a ton of protection. However, these are extremely uncomfortable, they're really hot, they fog really easy, and they're just not fun to wear. So the best thing to do is get you some EyePro, whether it's like a glasses style or a goggles style, whatever best suits you. Just make sure of two things. One, that they are airtight, they have a full seal to the contour of your face, as well are ANSI rated. If you need more information about that, you can check out this episode. I'm going to link up here in the top. Is going to send you to one of my videos that brings you about safety tips, and we're just starting out in Airsoft, and I go over why and what about the EyePro. And
I'll add on to that. FacePro is a big deal. So with paintball masks, you'll see EyePro and FacePro is usually all together.
Yep.
But if you get EyePro that's separate, if you're below 18, most fields require you to have face protection, lower face protection as well. And lower face protection, there's a lot of variants. If you can do your own research, and there's lots of different kinds, from half balaclavas that have metal mesh in them to full metal face mesh masks to like I've seen neoprene form face fitting stuff that looks like kind of like a surgeon's mask. So there's lots of different options out there. But if you're under 18, most fields allow you to, or require you to have a lower face protection. And if you're over 18, I still highly recommend it. Obviously, it's good for protecting your face, as far as just, I don't want my nose shot or lose any teeth. Yeah. But I also feel like it emboldens me to play how I prefer to play a lot more. I know I like to play aggressively. I like to be the first guy through the door, and I don't mind getting shot point blank in the face because I have metal mesh face masks. Yep. So I highly recommend lower face protection as well as your eye protection. Yep. And there's lots of kinds out there, like I said, so do your own research. And if you have some buddies or if you see some people at the field, you like what they have, ask if you can try it on. Ask if you can, ask questions about it.
Yep. That's very good, because, yes, like you said, most fields, if you're under the age of 18, they will require you to wear that lower face protection as well. So find one that's comfortable for you. And like you said, best way to find out something, like I said, is before even coming to me asking questions, which is a great idea, asking questions, but ask questions to those that you can actually see and shake hands with in person at your local field, because they may even know of some stores, maybe some of the players around are selling some of their gear, so you can get significantly cheaper, which we're going to be talking about where to buy the stuff here in a moment, but that's just ultimately the best thing to do. But after the EyePro and face protection, the next thing I would say is footwear. A lot of you guys are new to this type of stuff, and if you think about it, if you play sports, if you're playing baseball, basketball, or football, guess what? Every single one of those has footwear specified for that sport. Airsoft is no different. Now, you can come out here in just tennis shoes, and that's fine. However, the problem we see is a lot of people wearing either Crocs or some type of shoe that is not a good supportive shoe. They're either extremely fragile shoes, they're not durable to hold up with all the running around that you're doing in Airsoft, or they're very slippery because they don't have a grip. You're going to fall and hurt yourself. I have seen more injuries and more severe injuries in Airsoft from falling and tripping than I have anything else. And I have seen a lot of injuries in Airsoft. I've been injured in Airsoft, but the worst thing I've seen is people tripping and falling. And so your footwear is just about as important as your eye protection. Make sure you get something that has good ankle support and has good grips. You probably don't want to wear something like rubber boots, because you can't really run in them. You'll trip and fall. But something like ankle-high boots, hiking boots, or good old pair of tennis shoes would work just fine. Just make sure it's something that has good ankle support and is rugged and durable and can allow you to navigate whatever environment that you're in. And so finally, after you get past all that, as far as, remember, this is order of importance, at least according to me. Somebody may say something else, but that would be then your main replica. Because if you're trying to go from being a rental and you're going to be playing every single month, well, if you're paying a $30 field fee plus $30 for a rental, that's $60 every weekend. That's a lot of money. And so if you take that $30 that you would be spending on rentals and you take that the course of those several weeks in a row, guess what? Now you have enough money for a new for a new main, right? So for your new main replica or your firearm or whatever, or your not firearm, excuse me, your replica blaster. There you go. Blaster. For your main one, like I said, this is going to be different for every person depending on what you're wanting to do, what your budget is, all this sort of stuff. But if you want some more specifics, join the Discord. Let me know what you're wanting and what kind of style you're wanting, and then I'll be able to personally help you out, or someone else on there can personally help you out to at least steer you in the right direction. But we'll talk about where to buy some of this stuff later on. But I would say, as order of importance, remember number one's EyePro FacePro.
So I'll play devil's advocate a little bit on that one. I definitely think that unless you have gone to a field a lot and either use a rental a lot or use something else a lot, I would definitely recommend to go with an M4 style first, even if you're not sure. You know, you think you want to play sniper, you think you want to play support gunner, something like that. I would still recommend a cheaper M4 first, something that. Even if, okay, you get your cheaper M4 first, you decide, oh, I'd rather play with an SMG or something else, then you can keep that as a buddy gun or as a spare gun or sell it if you want to. But I definitely recommend going for an M4 first because they're so ubiquitous. There's parts everywhere, there's mags everywhere. They're a great thing to learn how to tech on first try, and if you... Something that I know you probably see a lot is we see a lot of sniper videos of airsoft videos on YouTube, and it's like, oh, snipers are so cool. Sniping in airsoft isn't exactly like how it is in the videos, and so if you see that and go, oh, I want to be a sniper, and then you get that sniper, and then turns out you like to clear rooms, then you've kind of put yourself up a creek. But if you have an M4, you have at most fields you don't have a minimum engagement distance, so you can shoot as close as far as you can, but you still also have a pretty good range to reach out farther. And there's always upgrades you can do. You maybe can make it a DMR depending on your fields and your field rules. So I definitely recommend an M4 first, unless you have played with buddies equipment, gotten lots of rentals, and you know. I don't really like going through buildings, and then you can go up to DMR, LMG, or a sniper, or whatever else you want to play with.
That's 100% right. In fact, I've seen a ton of people that they like the looks and style of an AK. That is awesome. I agree, they're really cool guns. I prefer an M4 myself, but AKs are still awesome. However, in the airsoft world, there's not too many AKs that are actually good, and those that are, there's still a lot of other stuff you have to do to work on them or stuff, because they're not like an M4. They're not the most famous thing. Since they're not the most famous style, they have less support for them and less parts and everything else for them. So definitely, I agree with DeWolf here. If you are going for just like a kind of like a blanket jack of all trades, an M4 platform is by far the best thing you can do, because guess what? If you want to switch to a LMG type gun, depending on the field rules, slap a drum mag on there, and guess what? Now you got one. But once again, keep with field rules. But another thing, marksman. Great marksman rifles are M4s with a longer barrel. Put a scope on there, switch out a spring, guess what? Now you got a really nice marksman rifle, which switch out spring, like DeWolf said here, M4s are the easiest guns to work on, apart from sniper rifles, but the easiest guns to work on, as well as have a plethora of parts that you can find, various of prices, styles, and everything else. So you can essentially, if you want something, you can make it work using an M4. So that is very good. So first EyePro, second Footwear, 3 is your main replica. Now we're on to number 4. Number 4 is going to be a battery and balance charger. Obviously, if you're getting your own replica, you're going to need your own battery to go with it. And so you look at the specs for your gun, whether or not that advertises like a 7.4 or an 11.1. That stuff you can learn more about in other videos or from your local people. I'll talk about it in a future video about how to maintain your batteries and stuff. Batteries for airsoft is kind of a tricky thing. You can get some really good ones, you can get some cheaper ones, but whatever you get, there's a big thing about them exploding. Now, are you going to have to worry about them exploding in your floor, catching your entire house and neighborhood on fire? If you do it properly, no. Not a million years is it going to happen. But if you don't take care of it and you treat it like it's just a piece of equipment and you're just tossing it around, then the chances of it catching on fire is going to go up. But if you treat it like you're supposed to, you're not going to have to worry about it. Which, once again, check the specs for your gun for what type of battery you need. Check the size of the battery and the size that your gun can hold. Because you may think, oh, a 3,000 or 8,000 mAh battery is going to last a whole lot longer. That may be, but can your gun carry that? seen some people even have to strap batteries using electrical tape on the outside of their gun. I would not recommend that because then you risk it getting punctured, hence fire. And yeah, and the other thing is make sure with whatever battery you get to get a smart charger for it. That being, these types of batteries, if you overcharge them, they risk blowing up. Now, blowing up is not a giant explosion, it's just going to catch on fire, but then you do have a fire going in. That's not a good thing. So, like I said, I'll make another video about that, but ask your regulars around you, ask in my Discord server whenever you're to that point. Just make sure you get the right battery for the gun, and make sure you get a smart charger. That is something you do not want to cheap out on, is a smart charger. Like, they make some cheap little ones that some companies make just so they can sell them out there for 20, 30 bucks. But like I said, that's not something you want to cheap out on. Getting you a good smart charger is one of the best things that I've done for my airsoft career. Alright guys, so for number 5, once you have a good battery that matches your gun and the smart charger to go with it, the next thing for number 5 is going to be magazines. Now these are important because if you already have your replica, for one, you're not going to have any magazines because unless you ask the field and they say you can, they're not going to just give you the magazines because those are very easy to accidentally walk off with. Trust me, it happens. But also a thing to think about is there's different types of magazines that you can use. There is low cap, mid cap, and high cap. The cheapest and what the majority of the rental guns will use are high cap magazines. Personally, I don't like them because they're really loud. You got to sit there and wind them up, and they don't have a lot of pressure, so they have a lot of misfeeds. However, DeWolf mentioned something earlier to me that he carries one on him all the time because when one of his mid caps, or if he runs out of ammo in his mid caps, he's got a backup that holds twice as many as they do in his bag. That's actually a really good idea. But if you are trying to upgrade your rental status to being a beginner or intermediate airsoft player, what you may look at getting is use some good mid caps because one, they're quieter, they're more reliable, and they're also they just feel a lot better. And so you can get cheaper mid caps, but some of the cheaper magazines don't like to work with every gun. In fact, a bunch of the Evike magazines didn't really work in my replica, and a bunch of like the Lancer and Crytac magazines wouldn't work in his Crytac rifle, and so it happens. And so one brand may not, or one brand may, but you have like 3 of their magazines that works, 2 that don't, and it's just how it happens. The magazines that I use, and what pretty much is the professional standard across the board, is going to be the PTS EPMs, and they're about 25-30 bucks a magazine, so it's a little bit on the pricier side, but if you are not prone to losing them all the time, it could be a good investment because they're really good mid-cap magazines, but they hold about 230-240 rounds, which is a lot of rounds for a mid-cap magazine. Also, if you're looking at going into major MILSIM events in the future, they require you to have mid-caps and don't allow high-cap magazines. So just kind of keep that in mind. Also to keep in mind is they have the giant drum magazines. Don't get that just because you think it can hold a 10 of ammo. One, they are also extremely loud, very finicky, and most fields may not allow you to use them depending on your field. Some may not, some may, because they want you to stay in the style of your build. If you have an M4, they want you to stick with M4. If you have an LMG, stick with LMG, that type of stuff. So just kind of keep all that in mind. And so kind of segueing from magazines, if you have 7 magazines you're running around with, what are you going to do? Stick them all in your pockets and look like you're a very rich person walking down the field? No, not quite. So instead you're going to look at getting you some sort of a kit or some sort of gear, and whether that is like a plate carrier or a chest rig or something, just hold your mags. I'm going to let DeWolf here give you some ideas.
Yeah. So for gear, realistically, do you need any gear at all? And the answer is no, you don't. If you just want to be that guy, run the Giga Chat on the field with just all your mag stuff in your pockets and say, you know what, do it. Fully encourage that. However, there comes a point where you're trying to run. I mean, how do I run the radio and water and mags and everything on my kit? So there's several different kit setups, and we're not going to cover everything in this video, but everything from vests to plate carriers, chest rigs, and then helmets and hats and what you want to put on your head as well as your belt. As far as those things, and I fully encourage, remember like we said earlier, it's better to do over research and get something you know that you'll love
100%.
Instead of under research and get something that you don't know that you'll like, or make a purchase where you feel like you haven't spent your money well. But I'd fully encourage doing lots of other research. research. There's a lot of if you want to go all the way from like Airsoft and like I know Evike makes some good videos on that, all the way up to crazy people like Rantham that make a lot of videos on that for you to set up how you want to set up your kit, how you want to set things up as well. But so for the general consensus is like for your first kit, I would say look at definitely either a plate carrier or a plate carrier, chest rig, or a belt first.
I was gonna say even just a metal belt.
Even just a belt is just fine too. I try to lean away from vests because a lot of them, the vests can be lower quality, and again, if you're getting something like this, you don't want to get something that's lower quality. I would say maybe medium quality, or you don't have to spend a lot of money on it, but you still want it to stay around. You don't want it to fail on you, and eventually you hand off to someone as a buddy rig. So a lot of my old stuff I give to friends when I take them out to the field. So I would definitely look at some, but for your first kit, look for something that can do everything that you need it to do in the moment.
Same.
When
what you need it for.
When you're getting kit, think about you have an objective for it, not just like, oh, I want to get a plate carrier because I think it looks cool. I want you to think, oh, I have a problem, which is I'm not holding all my magazines correctly, or I want to be able to have a radio on me, and then go, what fits that role? And then try to think about what fits that role, and then make it, I would say, as small as possible. Travel light. Travel light, win the fight. So if you can rock, a chest rig, all you want to run is 4 magazines and a radio. If you can rock a chest rig, I fully encourage you to do that. But if you want to have that more sustainment and ability to stack more things on, because you can't put everything. You can't put a whole bunch of water and everything on a chest rig usually. So if you want to stack more sustainment gear on you, more mags, frags, radio, water, and all these things, then I'd say look at a plate carrier and maybe try to stay away from vests. But if you like that option, then go for it. As far as plate carriers go, there's a lot of options there too. That you have smaller plate carriers that are going to be just as effective as a chest rig, which I'd say in the not Airsoft world, those definitely the purpose, but in Airsoft, if you're going to get a really slimmed down plate carrier, you might as well go for a chest rig instead, because they're going to be way lighter and fit way better. So as far as chest rig or plate carriers go, I would definitely, if you look at that as an option, if you want to run more things and run more like M4 platforms and things like that, where you're going to need lots of mags and lots of sustainment. Then there's also belts. There's nothing wrong with running just a belt. I would say, my personal opinion, I don't like running a belt, but it's because I like to reload off my chest. I see lots of guys that will run stacks of mags in their belt. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It is really going to lighten you up as far as your chest, putting that weight on your hips, and I would say it allows you to carry more diverse things, because I can't put a pistol on my chest. Yeah, exactly. If I was going to get one piece of gear, a belt is absolutely not a bad option, because I can put a pistol on my belt and it be effective. I can put mags, frags, dump pouch, gloves, whatever I want to put, whatever I want to put on my belt, and it's always going to be comfortable, as compared to putting a pistol on my chest and it being weird, or how do I mount whatever on my belt or on my chest somehow. So the only disadvantage with belts is that you're not going to be able to mount a radio very effectively, because having that wire then come up to your head with whatever, it's going to be uncomfortable, and there's not a super effective way to solve that problem. So just to keep that in mind. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with running just a belt and keeping it a one size fits all solution to your most problems. Moving on from there, we also have headgear. Again, absolutely nothing wrong with just a helmet or a hat, a boonie. Just whatever you want to do. Ball cap. There's nothing wrong with that. Helmets, as much as they look cool, that I would say their purpose is really not protection, especially in Airsoft, because I don't mind getting shot in the head as much in a helmet as much as I do in a hat, because we're playing Airsoft. I don't really, it's just that little bit of fabric from a hat is gonna, I'm not gonna feel well. I will feel it certainly, but it's not going to sting.
No, so, I would even say if anything, a helmet causes more problems than it does help, because it's hotter, makes you fog more.
Exactly. Yeah, it definitely can cause more problems. The real purpose for a helmet is going to be to mount things. So you plan on this just being a prop, but it's really going to be to mount things. So like we've got fog units, or GoPro batteries, fog units, GoPro itself, ear protection. Eventually, once we get really deep into it, things like night vision. It's really a platform to mount things on, not just something on its own. Unless you're going to some really crazy AOs, you really, you shouldn't be falling down. But unless you're worried about something like that, then maybe you really want a helmet. But in most situations, a hat's going to be fine, unless, again, it comes back to what is my problem, what is my objective, what piece of gear do I get to fix that objective. So if you want to say, oh, my problem is I am in close buildings with a guy that has a boss unit, and I need ear protection. Then maybe you want to not hear. But of course, you can also wear hearing protection with a hat. So it always comes back to that. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with a hat or boonie hats or however you want to rock it.
I mean, Red's wearing a tricorn nowadays.
Exactly, he's wearing a tricorn now, and I love it. So, dude, that's awesome.
Perfect.
But because he doesn't want hearing protection.
He doesn't have a GoPro. He doesn't need
he doesn't want hearing protection. He doesn't need a fog unit. Yeah, so all these things. And like you said, helmets can actually cause more problems because they will cause your head to be hotter. They will cause you to fog up more.
Yeah.
So it can be one of those things where you solve one problem and make two.
Yep.
So
exactly.
So there's it really is that do I need a helmet? And then if you to solve, I want EarPro, I want these things. If you don't want EarPro, if you don't want these things, I'd actually recommend not getting a helmet. If you're just going to run it completely on its own, I'd recommend not getting a helmet because it can just make more problems than it fixes.
Yep. I think the Wolf hit the nail on the head there. Essentially, the bottom line when it comes to the gear is look for a problem you have, like he said, and then find a solution for, but also what style are you going for? And because you may have a problem that you don't actually need to worry about because you're not going to be doing this. You may not need, if you're over the age of 18 and you plan on doing like very far back sniping, you may not want it, but at the same time, if you're a sniper, usually the only thing they might be able to shoot is your face, and so then you may still want it. And so these different things you got to think about. So what fits your style and what fixes your problem. Like for me, my plate carrier, I'm going to do a kit review at some point, but for example, I got all sorts of stuff all over me. I'm a squad leader as well, and so I need to carry some other extra stuff on me for that, whether it's like extra bandages, extra dead rags, maybe a map to the AO, like all these different things that I have to then carry extra on me. In fact, sometimes you need to carry more than one radio as well. So to have that much stuff on me, it just makes more sense for me to have like a plate carrier or something as opposed to a chest rig. But Red, he'll stand in as a squad lead at times, but most of the time he's our point man. He's going out there, he's trying to run fast, get to places quick, and he doesn't need all that extra stuff. And so he runs a chest rig and a ball cap until he got his tricorn, and guess what? He's going to be one of the most profitable guys that I have then in my squad or in our entire team because he's not bogged down by all the gear, because he can see his targets clearly and see the enemy in the tree line. Just think about your problems and your style of play, and all that once again contributes to what you exactly need. So like I said before, if you join the Discord, you can ask specific questions there, and I can try to help you out the best I can to steer you in the right direction. But
yeah, I'm not going to get too deep into it because it gets a little bit more advanced, but that whole mindset of what is my problem, how do I fix it with gear, gets a little bit downscaled too with specifically once you have your carrier.
Yeah. So
once you have, okay, I've decided I want a chest rig or whatever I have, then getting specific pouches and how you set up your plate carrier, all of it comes with that mindset too. Okay, I'm holding 3 mags, but I've noticed when I'm playing, I'm running out of ammo, so I need to get 2 more mag carriers. Or oh, I've noticed when I'm in buildings, I get fragged a lot, so I need to have grenades so that I can clear those buildings easier. It all comes down to, instead of just saying, oh, I want to run frags, do you really need frags yet?
Yeah.
Do you need a radio? You should. Oh, I'm having problems, talking to my teammates outside of, talking distance. So, oh, I should get a radio. I should get a radio pouch, things like that.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to specifically what to put on your kit once you have it, how you set up your kit, all that mindset is really going to help you out.
Yep. And if you guys want to see a video on how to set up your kit, let me know in the comments down below. And I plan on doing something similar to that here in the near future. But guess what, guys? I may have a ton of video ideas. I may not have any video ideas. So if you guys want to see something that you haven't seen yet, let me know in the comments, because if it is already on my idea list, now it is priority on my idea list, and then it's going to get done sooner than what it may have been before. So just let me know that and that stuff down in the comments. Moving on from the gear and kit, you go straight to radio, which is pretty much in the same area. A radio is something, if you're trying to progress and become from that beginner to pro status, one of the things you're going to definitely want to look into is radios. Now, once again, I'm not going to go into the specifics of radios here because there's a ton of that, types of radios, frequencies you're allowed to use, all that sort of stuff that we don't have time for in today's video. But some of those things are very important, though. In a radio, like he said, if you are not within earshot of your teammates and you're still able to communicate to them, that is game changer. Quick example of that is there's this one time on a skirmish day, our team was slightly outnumbered than the other team, and in the first round they completely smoked us until we made a difference. That second round, we went into it, we had me, Red, and DeWolf, all 3 with radios. We had taken our entire team and formed them into 3 individual squads and positioned ourselves in different spots on the field, and were able to communicate each other through the squad leads with radios. And so because of that, we were able to flip the scales and completely demolish them, because we had a level of communication to where I could be on the far left side of the field and I know what's happening on any other spot on that field. If I will have angles that they do not. And so if they say, "Hey, Moose, I'm pinned down. There's a guy behind this tree." Okay, I see him. All right, you're free to, you're clear to move, and then they can move up. And then just like that, we have turned a ragtag bunch of airsofters out there having fun into a controlled unit that was able to put in the work and then own the day. And so radios can be an extremely strong asset to your arsenal. However, you have to know how to use it properly, and we will be having another video in this series about how to communicate with your teammates over proper radio etiquette, so that way you guys can properly use a radio. So whether you and your friends are just getting radios or walkie-talkies, or you're planning on joining a squad that's already using them, that way you guys can be a little bit more knowledgeable in how to use them when that time comes. But moving on, guys, we're trying to move here pretty quick, but there's a lot of good information for you guys in this video. So if you did make it this far, I'd like you to let me know that you did in the comments by giving me a random word. DeWolf.
Scissors.
Scissors. Let me know that you've watched this far by typing the word scissors and letting me know in the comments by writing or sending me the word scissors in the comments. That way I know that you watched this far. I know some of these videos can be kind of long, guys, but I don't want to give you this short, quick thing that I'm just throwing out there to get views. I want you guys to be knowledgeable and be able to get the information that I'm trying to give you guys. So some of these videos may be longer than what they may need to be, but I try to give you guys as much information as I can. That way you guys don't have to go to somewhere else and start the YouTube search engine to try to find what you need when all of it can be answered in one video. So with that said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and move on to your pistol. Now, a pistol is a very, very misunderstood thing. A lot of people, their first thing they'll buy is a pistol, even before their main replica, before their EyePro, before their footwear. The first thing that they end up doing is they're getting a pistol, or that's something that their folks get them for like a Christmas or birthday present, is a pistol, which that is awesome. If that's what you got, awesome, because something's better than nothing. However, what I see time and time again is people will misuse their pistol. And so before I get into like actually finding a pistol and why you might need a pistol, Dwarf's got something real quick.
Yeah, so I love this analogy, and I've used several new players. I've used this analogy. So people like to think, oh, like in Call of Duty or whatever your favorite video game is, as far as that goes. You like to think, oh, you have your rifle and oh, you have your pistol, right?
Yep.
And I've seen a lot of people, oh, these are the two most important things. No, because in Call of Duty you have voice chat, don't you? Guess what else you have? Frags. You have all these things that you don't think about.
Yep.
That then if you go into Airsoft and you don't have voice chat, radios, you don't have frags, but you go into the pistol, think about in Call of Duty or whatever your favorite video game is, how often you use your pistol? How often do you use voice chat with your friends? How often do you use frags or flashbangs or whatever it is?
Yep.
So realistically, having a pistol is very good, but having a radio is one of the biggest force multipliers you can do, and it's very easy to do. If you know what you're doing, you know how to set it up. Having a radio is immediately going to make a lot of things better if you can just talk to your friends and have voice chat in Airsoft. And then moving on from there, frags are also very good, but pistols, I feel like they're, I think, overrated. Is that a mean term? Is that fine?
That's good.
Actually, and then moving on to away from the video game analogy to more of a I would say a real life analogy. In the military, it is very rare that people are actually issued handguns, especially in direct combat roles. You'll see them a lot, officers, truck drivers, things like that. But you won't see a lot of guys like right up front with pistols because
that's extra ammo. For
exactly, it's a whole lot, makes logistics a whole lot worse, and it's a whole lot more to carry when you have your brothers by your side to cover you instead. So I feel like pistols very good. I mean, I love having my pistol on me, especially as a squad lead. I love to be able to hand off my rifle or hand someone my pistol to have that extra gun in the fight. But I feel like they're overthought of because they really get the spotlight from movies and video games, and people don't think about how much work frags and radios can really do instead.
Yeah, kind of build off of that. A lot of things you'll see with pistols, you'll see people want to go in, dual wield, and go out there and just start shooting the place up. Well, let's say they have a really high cap magazine that has, let's say, 20 rounds in it. Most pistol mags will only have about 14 rounds in them. Well, let's say they just have a 30-round magazine. Out of, let's say they were dual wielding 2 30-round magazine pistols. Out of those entire magazines, they may get 4 shots to land, if that. And so, magazines, for pistols are not really what you want to get if you don't already have a main replica or something. So pistols are very good secondary, and that's what they're called, and that's a good way to call them that. And so, for example, let's say my replica randomly goes down. There's a jam, I ran out of ammo, or whatever the case may be, my main goes down. Having a pistol is awesome. Or an airsoft, if you have a MED, or minimum engagement distance, so you can't shoot someone if they're too close, and they enter that engagement distance, now have a pistol to pull out. Or there's been times where I was in such a tight spot I did not have a chance to reload my main, and to pull my sidearm was what saved the day. And so they can be extremely useful when used properly, but I think he's used the term well. They are very much overused and overrated for what they're supposed to be for, because with airsoft especially, they are not going to be as accurate as a real firearm. The rifles aren't, and especially the pistols aren't. And to get a good pistol that does what you need it to, you're spending oftentimes the same, if not more, than you are for a main replica. So at that point, just get your main replica.
Yeah, I'll say all of this is looked through the scope of kind of a milsim, casual to milsim approach. If you're in Speedsoft, I know I don't have a ton of experience in Speedsoft, but if you're in Speedsoft, I know pistols are the meta, man. And if you come in with rifles trying to cut through all these buildings and move, skate fast, it's not going to work. So understand this is kind of from our experience, from our approach, kind of the way we like to play Airsoft, and that's the nature of the beast. Now the commentary is going to be. But if you play Speedsoft, it's completely different, yes. Yeah. But at least in the casual to milsim experience, and we'll get into tactics in another video. But pistols basically disable your ability to do suppressive fire. You cannot suppress the enemy and keep their head down with a pistol because you just don't have that much ammunition. You're not accurate enough to adequate ranges. So I have found, and maybe your experience as well, that when my rifle goes down and I have to draw my pistol, I can feel myself being less useful to my team. Because I'm immediately I can be the guy that moves on the enemy. I can't be the guy that keeps the enemy's head down just because I have a pistol and I have 20 rounds. And I cannot sit here and just shoot away at their cover because I only have 20 rounds. I can't do that. So, again, looking at it from a milsim approach instead of a Speedsoft approach. Yeah,
100%. Like he said, most of our commentary and our stuff is going to be based around a military or milsim standpoint or a regular airsoft standpoint. But if you go into like the Speedsoft or tournament style, which is kind of like more of the paintball style, then pistols, like he says, the meta, they are extremely overpowered. And if you've seen, I've probably mentioned him in a couple of times before, the Eddie Valorant. I don't really watch him, but I do know he's like one of the main guys for Speedsoft, and I know he's good. And so what is his main weapon of choice? Pistols, and he is really good with them. And so if that's your style of play and that's what you want to do, 100% go for it. Those pistols, I warn you though, are extremely expensive and probably cost as much as my main, if not more. But they have a lot of fun with them, so if that's what you want to do, once again, you'll hear it throughout this entire video. For the specifics of what to get and what you need is greatly dependent on what your play style is, and you're not going to know that if you've never been to the field before. So the best thing you can do is go out, try different things, ask questions to the people doing those things that you find interesting, and then, only then, start looking at getting your own kit. And so, with that said, we'll move on. We're almost done to the next one, which is one of my personal favorite things in the entire world, is grenades. The reason why these things are so much fun is, one, like I said, they're just so much fun, but one of the reasons why they're fun is because they're loud, they're cool, and there's nothing more intimidating to the other team than a grenade to be thrown in and then a squad of guys turning that corner with their guns. It's a beautiful picture to see. It's a fun thing to actually do, and nothing's more intimidating than that to the enemy team.
Yeah, they're also such a big force multiplier on the field.
Yes.
As far as if you get to a building, realistically, there's a joke amongst lots of communities. Point man always dies, right? If you get up to a building, you're going to go in the building without frags. Point man's always going to die. The defense always has get fragged because we're playing Airsoft here. But the defense always has a advantage.
The surprise.
Defense always has an advantage because they get to sit in one spot and look at one door, and then the attackers have to come in that door to get them. So the defense is always going to have an advantage in that. However, if you sit, I'm sitting in one spot in my highly barricaded spot, and then toss a frag in that room, well, now the defender's kind of up a creek because you just turned their really defended good location into really bad location because now they're going to get fragged. So or they have to completely move their location or something. So to deal with that grenade. So they are a big force multiplier on the field as far as you get to a door, you toss a frag in, and it can really change up as far as instead of the defenders having the advantage, you're going to stare at one spot. You can be the attackers and either completely wipe a room or completely disorganize a room before you get in there. And I've seen many times on the field when you'll have a really strong defense and then attackers get to the building and start throwing frags, and those really strong defense it completely get the flip gets script. The script gets flipped. The flip gets script.
There you go.
and then the attackers take low to no casualties compared to the defenders, and they take the building. And it's like that was sitting from the back. That should have been an unwinnable situation, but frags and
another thing to think about is in the real world, 9 out of 10 times grenades are only used for suppression, because the majority of the time if you throw a grenade in a room, shrapnel or explosion may not hit the person. The best thing that it's used for is a distraction. Hence why it's also a really good idea to use like a flashbang or something in like a real world environment, but bring it to Airsoft. That it's still the case. However, Airsoft you can get kills easier than like in a real life situation, but it is very good for that suppression. So you're taking it from you are the attackers. The defenders have the advantage because they have the element of surprise. The moment you throw that grenade in, it gets switched. Now you have that element of surprise. You are now in control of that situation. And the best way to take control of a occupied position is to take control of it before you even enter it. And so if you can do that by tossing in frags, awesome work. You have now just managed to take this building with little to no casualties, which is the objective. And so, really fast thing.
Do you want
just
to talk about a couple different kinds of grenades?
Oh yeah. So make sure to look at your Airsoft field's rules and how they allow grenades to be used. Some of them have limitations of what you can get for grenades. Others, they just have limitations of how good they are. So there are sound grenades, there are actual frag grenades, there are plastic springers, then there are also blank fire grenades. So the differences in these are all in how they actually explode. The majority of the ones you'll see out there are probably going to be like a Thunderbee or something, which is just a gas grenade. It expands and then makes a loud boom. Exactly. And so these things are just loud. They do not launch BBs. They are just loud and they make a noise. And so when you throw this in, it punctures a CO2 cartridge, expanding the plastic. It explodes, making a loud bang. So this is going to be a sound grenade. And so what's good with them is most fields that allow sound grenades to count as kills, there does not need to be a projectile. As long as you're within 20 feet of that thing, you're dead, you're out. That is a lot better than the ones that only allow fragmentations as kills. A lot of like Milsim West events, sound grenades do not count as kills. It has to be a fragmentation grenade, and one of the fragments has to hit the player. Some fields have that same rule, so some grenades will actually have BBs inside, or sometimes it's like a small like biodegradable rubber type stuff that when it explodes, it gets launched out just like a real fragmentation grenade, and if that hits you, that is what counts as a kill. Springer grenades are another good version of that. Just instead of exploding, it's a wound up spring. You pour BBs inside, and when you throw it and it hits something, it will pop that spring loose and all the BBs get shot out. And some gas grenades even do that as well. And so the type of grenade depends on what you are wanting it for, your price, your budget, as well as the field rules. So once again, that goes back to whatever your style and your need is, contributes towards what you need to get. However, Thunderbee is probably the cheapest overall You can get cheaper if you get a blank fire. Blank fire will use like actual blanks, like 9mm or 12 gauge blanks, and they are very loud and they're very cool, but they're also very expensive. For one of those grenades, you're looking at anywhere from $90 to $200 each. And however, the difference for that is it's about $20 for the core of this thing, but then every time you throw it, you need a new CO2 cartridge and a new shell. Shells are about $2, and the cartridge is about another $1. So you're spending about $3 to $4 every throw you get. So depending, once again, how much you plan on playing, how much you plan on using grenades, ultimately affects on what is best for you in the long run. But if you're using grenades properly and you're playing like what we do once or twice a month, then you should be fine getting something like this. $2 to $3 a throw is not that bad if you're using it properly. If you're just chucking these things out everywhere, you see a group of 2 or more players, then maybe not. But there's also some 3D printed options. I got some videos on my channel. I'll also leave up here or in the description or somewhere about some 3D printed options that you can use for a lot cheaper. Granted, they don't work as well, they're not as loud, but that is still a vital option for you guys to use. So also, one more type of grenade that I didn't mention is pyrotechnics, and DeWolf has got a little bit of information about that.
Yeah, so pyrotechnic grenades are going to be much more like a firecracker, but they're contained and made to be made safe. So, like I said, think about like a firecracker that you'd have around 4th of July or on New Year's, something like that. Where you'll
Black Hat.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Where you will pull a fuse, and it will start a actual burning fuse that goes down into the grenade, and then it will explode again like a firecracker. Don't think so much like a grenade. Then it has a protective plastic shell around it. I know EG67s have like like P's or some BBs in them, and yeah, and then tag-ins have something else in there too that add a fragmentation effect. But it's all made very safe, and they will explode and they will have fragments. But it's all very safe. But they are they're going to be single use, so they're very disposable. So those are going to be good for once you get to higher up milsim events, and you can't use things that are reusable, that you have to go back and find your grenade again. But if you're at those milsim events where you just want to chuck it and forget about it, those are a very good option. But you have to think about that they are single use, and they are pyrotechnic grenades, which means they're almost always going to be more expensive than any other option because you can't reuse any part of them. They are fire and forget. So they're fun for milsim events, and I like to pick up 2 or 3.
They're
just
really
to
cool.
Think about them, but they can get expensive.
$15 a piece. They add up.
Yeah.
They add up. But like I said, they're very cool, and most of these grenades are reusable. Like the core you get to reuse, you just need the shell and the cartridge. The Springer grenades are obviously reusable unless you break them, which they are not the most durable things in the world. The pyrotechnic ones are single use, but if you get some of the cheaper ones, once again, that may be what you need. So once again, going back to what is your need, what is your style, what is its intended purpose, depends on, like, if that price is going to fit into what your budget is for that. Another one real quick would be smoke grenades. Those are really cool. I wouldn't say they are very useful for much more than a milsim type gameplay. Obviously you can't use them indoors, but also for like a casual game day, I would say they're not the best to use. If you want to, that's great, they're cool. Also check with your field, because if there's a burn ban going on, you can't use them. Even some of the pyrotechnic ones you can't use because they'll catch stuff on fire. In fact, our first AMS event, we had to put out five at least.
I put out 3 or 4 fires.
There was several fires caused not by smoke grenades, but by just the pyrotechnic grenades blowing up. Now, I will give this warning as well. Do not go out this 4th of July and grab you a bunch of fireworks to use as airsoft grenades, including the smoke ones, because they are simply not made for that, and you will either not be allowed to use them, or if you don't bring them up and you use them anyway, that's a very good way of being banned from your local airsoft field. The best thing you can do is get something that is made specifically for airsoft and not try to make your own. I know some of you guys are out there looking up really old YouTube videos of making airsoft grenades with black hats and Easter eggs. Don't do it. They're not very safe at all, and it's just not a good idea. Also, it's littering, because then you have hard plastic that's not biodegradable sitting there in the environment. Also not good. But moving on from that, we've talked a whole lot about what you might need to get and the order to get it in and stuff. But there's very briefly about the uniform too. I think I forgot to mention, but uniform is in there somewhere, kind of towards the end, because uniform is just to look cool or to match a team if you're going for a specific milsim event that requires a specific color. Otherwise than that, uniforms are just there to look cool or to have something durable specific for airsoft that you can use and get dirty and not worry about it. So we've talked a lot about what to get, but not a lot about where to get it. So once you've finally gone through our list, you've talked with me or somebody else like the regulars at your field about your style, and you know for a fact you're 100% sure on what you want to do, and now you kind of have an idea of what you need, but now you're trying to figure out where to get it, how much I should spend, all that sort of stuff. So once again, this still goes back to depending on what you need. Some of the stuff you can buy from one place, some it's better to buy from another. So the best thing to do, like I said, is to talk to the regulars at your field, because maybe there's a local store. You can actually go in and get your hands on the item itself. A lot of local fields will actually sell stuff. Just that way you can get your hands on the stuff. But the best thing to do is talk to the regulars, see what they got, see where they got it, and that's the best thing to do. And so the first thing I'm going to say in this topic is what is wrong with just getting like some Amazon or Walmart gun. Well, Amazon and Walmart are both wholesale retailers. What they do is they buy a bunch of a product in bulk and they sell it. They only care about making the money, not about the actual product itself. So what that means is you're going to get a ton of these very cheaply made things that all they have is the name Airsoft in it, and that's the most Airsoft thing about it. It's just the name on the title of the webpage. That the quality is extremely bad. You're going to pick it up, but it's going to fall apart, or it's going to shoot about 20 times and it's going to catch on fire, or it's just not going to work great at all. And so like an Amazon or Walmart or Academy Sports, just a gun from there is not going to be the best. Now, some brands, like good airsoft brands, will sell on Amazon. That's something to keep note of. You were saying?
Yeah, I wanted to play a little bit devil's advocate for that one, because I would say with guns, with blasters themselves, because they're not, right? I would say Amazon and Walmart can be not the best choice because you just can't get your hands on it. Yep. Remember that your blaster is going to be what is on you. I mean, 24/7. That's you're required to play the sport, right? So, so that is something that you will want to have. You hopefully want to get your hands on or something like that beforehand, and know that you're getting a really good quality something. But moving on to like gear, uniforms, things like that. True. I feel like there is a lot. It doesn't matter as much if
a lot of my stuff, I believe, is Amazon gear-wise.
Exactly. You don't need it to be as great of a quality because it's not, trying to launch a BB and you're really hoping for good performance. I mean, my mag carriers are a piece of nylon holding a magazine. I don't need to spend as much money on them. I don't need to get really, really good ones because they're simply not doing as much. So you can more than get good equipment that will work for you on Amazon, and especially Amazon. Walmart doesn't really carry gear and things like that. But you'll see a lot of I don't know when you want me to add this, but you'll see a lot of people like really harping on Amazon and like lower tier gear and airsoft brands and things like that. Mm-hmm. When it comes down to it, ultimately, if it's working for you, then there's no problem.
100%.
If it's reliable and if it's working for you, then there's no reason why it's a problem.
Yep.
Now, obviously, you need to be not biased towards that and go, oh yeah, it's working for me when it maybe it has some issues. But if it has no issues, absolutely full send, run it however you're going to run it. If it's working for you, totally go for it. You don't need to spend $50 on a mag pouch, because it's the cool brand that the real guys in the military use. Yep. Because we don't need this mag carrier to save my life. Correct. I need it to hold my magazines for play army, right? Yep. So you don't need to spend top tier money for especially the lower budget things like I know I said mag carriers a lot, but mag carriers, frag carriers, things like that. That especially you don't need to worry about being as comfortable and aren't doing very much. You can get those for a whole lot cheaper, and you don't need to look at those higher tier brands. Yep. There's a lot of lower tier brands that make really good gear that we can totally use. And
100%.
Yeah, I've run a lot of what would be really bad gear through the ringer, and crawled through mud and done stuff that absolutely should have torn it.
The name brands.
And sometimes they do. Yeah. I have some much better slings that don't have as good of features and have failed on me before my cheap airsoft slings, and I'm like, my cheap airsoft sling is rocking it, and my not as airsoft sling is not as rocking it. Apparently 100%. I'm rocking an airsoft sling, so I've got a lot of things like that if your gear is working for you, if it's reliable, if it's doing what you want it to do, there's absolutely nothing wrong with 100%. Not upgrading, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with getting that gear that works for you instead of gear that will work for guys that are actually kicking doors in real life situations.
Yeah. Exactly. Some people get confused and they'll think, in order to buy this stuff, I have to go out and buy the big name stuff that's from the actual military grade stuff in order to do this stuff. Not true at all. But this once again goes towards the style. We're talking more on a milsim level. The other stuff, it's kind of the same thing. The brands and stuff for those are going to different depending on that stuff. But like you said, for gear and stuff, you'll very easily be able to find a ton of this stuff on Amazon, usually for even cheaper. In fact, my multicam top right now, I got on Amazon. It's some cheap off-brand thing that was kind of from like a sketchy seller on Amazon on sale for like $11. And so for a combat top, and this thing has stood up almost longer than actual BDUs, and it's insane. Mm-hmm. And so Amazon, for stuff like your gear itself and what you're wearing, by all means, it can be a pretty good... Just remember that sometimes it can be a hit and a miss if you're finding the lower price stuff. Sometimes it's from just some seller may take 10 years and go through 20 countries to get here type of a thing. Yeah. But a lot of the times it's actually really good. Like you were saying, like the fabric type stuff, the reason why you can't trust that with Airsoft stuff unless it's coming from an official Airsoft seller is because it's more of a niche type thing, whereas this is just fabric. Anybody can work with fabric. Airsoft guns are a very niche thing that you have to understand how they work to make them work properly. And not a lot of people do that, and sometimes people will do that just to mass produce and make money off of them. And that's why it's a little bit harder to use. And also, like you said, that is the most important thing that you're using apart from your EyePro, which the EyePro, you can find some good ones on Amazon. Just make sure that they are ANSI 87.1 rated and that they say it once you get them, because sometimes they may say it on the website specifications, but not when you get it in person. Pretty much every single ANSI rated EyePro will say it on the inside of the frame somewhere that it's ANSI rated. If not, I wouldn't fully trust it unless it's coming from a reputable seller. Some brands out there, you can ask me and I'll let you know, like on the Discord and stuff. But so if you can't trust Amazon stuff for the stuff like the replicas, or if you are wanting to find your gear at a place, my first suggestion to look, and the best place in the entire world to look, is your local field. I can't say that enough about all the stuff, is go to your local field. Ask the owner of the field, the manager of the field, the regulars at the field, because those are the people who are going to be able to actually talk to, get real advice from real people and not just from some internet search engine. Instead, you get to talk to them, see what they're using, see what they're rocking. Maybe even they may even let you try some of their stuff on. If somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, can I try on your plate carrier to see if it's gonna work for me?" Odds are, unless I'm in the middle of a game, I'm gonna do it. And so, just stuff like that. But also, you can find a bunch of top tier items for significantly cheaper. For example, I bought this plate carrier for $30 off of Evike. Or Evike, I think they call it, but whatever it's called. If I was to resell this on Facebook or Discord or something, I'd have to, lower the price to probably, $10, $12 or something like that. And so in other words, you're getting a $30 vest that's just, it's been used, but you get it for a significantly cheaper price. And for you that's just starting out, trying to build your kit to see what works and what doesn't, that's the best way to do it, because you get a lot cheaper stuff. And in fact, sometimes you can get stuff for free. When I first started out and I needed a bunch of mid-cap mags, I got about 12 plus of them handed to me for free because people were upgrading to the PTS mags and they had these old mags that hardly work anymore. Now granted, a lot of those mags I would have to bang on a tree to get them to feed BBs or something, but they still worked when I just first started out and I didn't have to spend any money on them.
It's funny because I'm on the opposite side of that now. As I've upgraded to PTS EPMs, I've handed out my old mags and done that exact same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you'll find that the Airsoft community is all for getting new players into the sport and getting them just as addicted as they are. Airsoft players, our two favorite things to do is brag about our kit and make other people just as addicted to the sport. It's how it is. It sounds like a cult, but I promise you it's not.
I can stop at any time.
I can stop at any time. Exactly. But so the best place to go is your local field. See what they have. Some of your field may even sell this stuff. Now remember, if your field is selling stuff as like a retailer, it will be that upcharged price as opposed to if you get it from an individual that's just in the community. Just kind of keep that in mind. But that's the best place, is to look on your local field, whether they have a Facebook page, Discord, or whatever they may have, is to talk to the regulars at your field and see if they have some old gear they're willing to part ways with. The next place from that is, like I said, your field. But another good place to look for is Evike. It's like the Airsoft Megastore, online Megastore, and they even have several in-person locations. If you happen to be within driving distance of one of these Evike locations, that's the best thing you can do, because you can go there, talk to real people, get your hands on the replicas themselves, and be able to actually get a feel for what you're wanting to do, and ask questions to those guys that are experts in what they're doing. And a lot of these major Evike ports or like stores will also have a field there, or if nothing else, a testing range, so you can actually shoot the replica as well to get kind of a feel for it. And so that is another really good option. Now, they do have the online Megastore, but the something to keep in mind about that is not every gun on there is going to be good. Evike, like I said, it's a Megastore. They are not. Evike does not make guns and sell them. Instead, they sell other companies' stuff. And so what that means is some of the companies' stuff is going to be really quality. Some of them are not. Some of them are going to be cheaper stuff. Some companies will have better of this item, but have worse of this item. And so some of that stuff can kind of be tricky to navigate through, which is why I say the best thing to do is get your hands on it, or talk to the regulars at your field, see what they've got, see what they've learned. And so instead of me listing off a whole bunch of brands that you can use, best thing advice I can give you is talk to the regulars at your field, or visit me in the Discord server. That way I can get you guys more of a specific thing outside of the scope of this video.
I'll say that goes both ways with Evike. Yes, they can sell some lower tier things too, but I've also seen them sell like real EOTechs for 500.
Really good stuff.
Kind of ridiculous for Airsoft. So just watch. You've got the really high end and the really low end. Like you said, they're a Megastore.
Yeah.
So
that's what they do.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's nothing bad about them for the lowercase stuff. That is simply what they do.
Fault.
It's not their fault. And so some of the guns are really cheap, but some of them are like that good middle tier. I would say a good average beginner gun price would be no less than 100, but preferably around the 150 range for on the cheap end for your main replica. But that's just that's gonna be different wherever you go. It's gonna be different depending on the gun. There's so many factors in play. That's why I say talk to the regulars or talk to me in the Discord is the best way that we can get you the best bang for your buck. And so, like I said, Amazon is another good place for your gear and stuff. I wouldn't trust it fully for your main replica stuff, except for some of the sellers. For example, my batteries I get off of Amazon because I get them from the seller that makes the batteries. I use Titan batteries, and I buy them from the Titan seller on Amazon. The main reason why I do that is because, well, I have Amazon Prime, so I can get free shipping on a lot of that stuff, and that saves me a ton of money versus Evike has like $50 shipping. Or it's like $20-$30 shipping depending on what you get, but they have free shipping if you get like over 150 or something dollars like that.
I think it's 150. Yeah.
And so you can get free shipping on large orders, which if you already have a plan of what you're getting, know what you want, and get it all in one purchase, then you can get, then you might be eligible for free shipping. And so
Evike will also sell things that Amazon won't, or that they'll have better deals and things Amazon will have way worse deals on. So
that's true.
EPMs, if Amazon, I don't think I've had really struggled to see them on Amazon, and if they're on Amazon, yes, if they're on Amazon, they're usually like $10 more expensive than they are on Evike.
That is true.
So Evike will have things, because they're a specifically for Airsoft and specifically for that, they'll have a lot more Airsoft specific things, and they'll have better deals on some Airsoft specific things as compared to Amazon, that especially for specific things like magazines and face protection, things like that. Evike is going to have a lot more of a lot better selection, and they're going to have usually better deals on some things as compared to Amazon.
And I'll even say this, I don't know other people's experience with Evike, but I've had a really good experience with Evike as far as a customer service standpoint, because when I first got my replica, I also got a bunch of mid-cap mags to go with it, which were the Evike Banff mags, which is like the cheapest mags they have on there. That's what they sell, is like a wholesale cheap thing. And none of them would work for my gun. Like, one would work, but then would stop working, and I was just having problems with it. I was even having problems with the mag that came with the gun. And so I reached out to them, and I returned them all, and essentially got a full... I didn't get my money back, but I got it as like a credit that I can use for other stuff. And that whole process was very streamlined. It was held very professionally, and the customer service that I experienced during that whole process was excellent. So excellent customer service. Another place you can go to is like an army surplus store, or some type of a surplus store. A lot of the times, even if they're not army stores, they're just surplus stores. A lot of them will actually have like some good BDU type stuff, and some of them will have especially in an army surplus store, have some gear type stuff. Now, I will say this, a lot of that stuff is the real deal stuff, and a lot of it is antique real deal stuff. So in other words, instead of paying the normal price, you are often paying a lot more than if you were to get just like the basic one that is the real deal. And so, but other times you can get really good deals on like uniforms and stuff. So for a surplus store for uniforms, I would say is a pretty good choice if you don't want to get some cheap Amazon thing like my shirt is. That is another place.
So also though, as you said, it can be antique or older equipment, which means it is real deal equipment. So it's good. You know, generally it's not going to fail on you, but it's also usually going to be equipment, you know, from the last war. As they say, it's going to be equipment. Well, maybe not used, but maybe just older. It'll be worn down, equipment that's 20 to 40 years old, maybe. And sometimes a cheaper, newer option can be better than a more expensive, older option.
Correct.
So even though there's the higher quality difference, it may not have, especially if it's older. I'm gonna get hate for saying Alice gear is bad, but especially if it's older Alice gear and things like that, as compared to Molly gear, that's not going to be compatible, and Alice is not as modular as Molly gear is. So, and wow, we'll get into other things like that in a gear video, I'm sure. Yeah. But sometimes cheaper, newer equipment can be better than older equipment. But surplus stores are a great place to get things like BDUs, uniforms, and they'll usually have a lot of more weather-resistant things than you'll find anywhere else, like raincoats and things like that.
Yeah,
once you get into the more Milsim side. So,
that's true.
Oh, boots, very good place to get boots.
Very good place to get boots. That's true. That's true. However, the number 2 place. Number 1 is going to be your local field and your local community, because not only are you going to be able to find good stuff that was actually used for airsoft and get your hands on it, and get to support your community by giving them money that then they can use to upgrade their kits. That's number 1. Number 2 in my book is this last thing on our list, and then we're done, is thrift stores and garage sales. I can't tell you how many times I've found BDU tops, bottoms, and all sorts of other stuff. I've even found parts of a bomb squad suit at Goodwill. Just a simple Goodwill trip, and you'll be surprised what you find. You can find a lot of woodland usually at Goodwill. Now that multicam's been out as the latest thing for a while, you're even seeing a lot of multicam. And so you'll see a ton of that stuff at Goodwill for a significantly cheaper price than anywhere else. In fact, I'm making my ghillie suit, and I went to a Goodwill to find some BDU tops or bottoms, and I found a top and a bottom, each $8 to $10 a piece. And these pants are not the normal BDU pants. They've got like some weird inner thigh pockets, and they're really thick and kind of warmer. It's insane what you can find at a Goodwill, I'm telling you. And garage sales, same thing. You never know what you might score at a garage sale. You never know. You may find some old retired veteran, or some airsofter that's been doing it for 40 plus years, and they're just selling some stuff. You never know. And so with that is going to be the conclusion to the video, your first airsoft kit. I know it's been a long one. If you guys have watched this far, we're going to say rock.
Rock?
Before with scissors, now we're saying rock. If you've watched this far, please let me know in the comments by giving me the word rock. Okay, and so I know it's been a long video, but like I said, I want to give you guys as much information as I can about a topic in each video, as opposed to just giving you teasers of information that keeps you coming back or has to make you go search somewhere else. I want you, if you come to a video for the topic that's in the title, you're going to get that information and everything that goes along with it. So don't blame me for the video being long. Blame yourself for clicking on my video when you were wanting the information. So this is what you wanted. I'm just giving it to you. And so I will make sure to leave timestamps so you can fast forward wherever you need to. But like I said, guys, the best thing to do is talk to your regulars. Get on my Discord server, links in my description, and make sure to talk to somebody before going out and actually buying your kit. The worst thing you can do is go out and buy something. In fact, we were talking to somebody not too long ago, just a couple months ago, on our local field's Discord server. It was a new guy. He was asking questions about a new eye protection that he got, because he was really excited that he already spent about $200 to $300 on this piece of EyePro. The problem was, it was this really awkward helmet mask thing that not only was it going to be incredibly uncomfortable, fog extremely easy, be extremely hot, you can't hear him through it, and not to mention it was not ANSI rated. In other words, he would have had this big clunky thing that he would have not been allowed to play in that he just spent $200 on. And so that is why it is very important to talk to somebody before you spend that much money on something, because you're not going to get that money back. Even if you try to resell it or even return it, it's not the same. The best thing to do is get the information before you make the purchase, and that's what I'm here making this video for. The reason why these videos are so long is because I want you to be the most educated you can before making a decision, especially with that amount of money. And so if you guys have any more questions for me, let me know in the comment section down below or on the Discord server, and I will see you guys in the next video. See ya.